The wind howls outside my Vermont home tonight, rattling the windows like it's trying to tell me something I've long ignored. I sit in my kitchen, a chipped teacup cradled in my hands, staring at the easel in the corner where a half-finished canvas waits. It's been weeks since I touched it, weeks since I felt the weight of a brush, since I believed my strokes could mean anything. Once, I painted for love, for memory, for a girl who called me Nana. Now, I don't know why I paint at all. The silence in this house is heavy, not the quiet of peace but the kind that follows betrayal, the kind that settles after you've been laughed at, discarded, made invisible. I was 62 when I learned the truth about love, not the soft, glowing kind I'd poured into my granddaughter Madison, but the sharp, cutting kind that leaves you wondering who you've been all these years. I was born in Montpelier, Vermont, in a clapboard house with a sagging porch and a backyard that bloomed with daffodils each spring. The town was small, stitched together by church suppers, farmers' markets, and the kind of gossip that traveled faster than the wind. My parents were quiet people, Dad a carpenter, Mom a seamstress, who taught me to work hard and keep my head down. Montpelier smelled of pine and fresh bread, its streets lined with maple trees that turned fire red in autumn. Winters were brutal, snow piling high enough to bury fences, but summer brought soft evenings where crickets sang and fireflies danced. It was a place where you knew your neighbors' names, where life felt safe, predictable. I loved it, not for its grandeur but for its smallness, its intimacy. That's where I raised Madison, in a world of jelly jar bouquets and backyard swings, believing love could outlast anything. Madison came to me when she was 2, her mother Lauren too young and too broke to handle a toddler alone. Lauren was my only child, born when I was 19, back when I thought marriage to my high school sweetheart, Tom, meant forever. Tom left when Lauren was 6, chasing a job in Boston he never came back from. I didn't cry much, I just got to work, waitressing days and painting at night to keep us fed. Lauren grew up fast, too fast, pregnant at 17 with Madison. She was overwhelmed, juggling 2 jobs, so I took Madison in, raising her like my own. My modest home became hers, cracked driveway, creaky floors, and all. We'd finger paint at the kitchen table, her tiny hands smearing color everywhere, giggling as she called me Nana. She'd ride her tricycle in circles, chase our golden retriever Max, and help me pick dandelions for our makeshift vases. Those years were my sunlight, bright and warm even when money was tight and my hands ached from work. But childhood fades. By the time Madison was 12, iPads replaced storybooks, TikTok replaced our painting sessions. She drifted into a world of selfies and trends, her visits growing rare unless she needed cash or a ride. I watched, proud but heartbroken, as she became someone I barely knew. Still, I loved her. I believed in her, even when she stopped believing in herself. For 12 years, I scraped together every penny I could, skipping doctor visits, canceling cable, wearing threadbare sweaters, to build a college fund for her dream of Cal Arts, that glittering California school for artists. I never told her. I wanted it to be a surprise, a gift to remind her of the girl who once loved to create. Her 18th birthday was my chance to show her. I painted a gift, not just a canvas but a memory, our backyard swing, Max bounding through grass, daffodils under a watercolor sky. Every stroke was a heartbeat, every color a prayer. I wrapped it in brown craft paper, tied it with a satin ribbon, and slipped in a card, "May your future be as bright as the little girl you used to be." I drove to her party, heart full, imagining her smile. The event was glossy, nothing like the backyard barbecues I'd thrown her. White linen tables, a DJ, piles of designer gifts, everything screamed money, everything except me in my old gray cardigan, clutching my painting like it was glass. When Madison opened it, the crowd hushed. She held it up, paused, then laughed. "Are you serious? A painting? That's it?" Her voice was sharp, mocking. Must have been cheaper than a real gift. Her friends snickered. Someone muttered, "Vintage vibes, I guess." Lauren shot me an uncomfortable glance but said nothing. I stood frozen, hands useless, as Madison shrugged and propped the painting against a table leg, forgotten. The kids moved on. No one saw my face. That's the thing about being invisible, no one notices when you're breaking. I walked to my car, each step dragging years of love behind me, birthday cakes baked alone, scraped knees kissed better, prayers whispered over bills so she could have ballet shoes. I sat in the driver's seat, engine off, and watched a tear slide onto my wedding band. That painting was the truest thing I'd ever given, and she didn't see it. None of them did. But I would never forget. The drive home from Madison's party was a blur, Montpellier's streets fading into streaks of lamplight and shadow. My hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles pale, as if holding on could keep me from unraveling. The painting sat in the back seat, its brown craft paper crumpled where Madison had torn it open, the satin ribbon dangling like a broken promise. I didn't turn on the radio. The silence was loud enough, filled with her laugh. A painting? That's it? And the snickers that followed, each one a needle in my chest. I kept seeing her face, not the 5-year-old who called me Nana, but the stranger in the tight pink dress, holding my heart up for mockery. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the cracked asphalt glinting under the porch light, I felt hollow, like someone had carved out everything I'd been. Inside, the house was dark, the kind of dark that swallows you whole. I didn't bother with the lights. I dropped my purse on the counter, the thud echoing in the quiet, and stood in the kitchen, staring at nothing. The air smelled faintly of linseed oil and lavender, remnants of my painting days and the sachets I tucked into drawers. Outside, the wind pressed against the windows, rattling the panes as if begging to be let in. I filled a chipped teacup with tap water, too tired to make tea, and sat at the table where Madison used to do her homework, her ponytail bobbing as she asked me what colors to mix for a sunset. The easel in the corner stood empty, brushes scattered on the table beside it, dried paint crusting their tips. I hadn't touched them since finishing her gift. Now, I wondered if I ever would again. I didn't cry, not the way you'd expect. No sobs, no wails. Just a single tear, then another, sliding down my cheeks and pooling in the teacup's ripples. I stared at my reflection, distorted and faint, and thought about the college fund. For 12 years, I'd built it, dollar by dollar, sacrifice by sacrifice. I'd skipped medications, worn shoes until the soles split, turned the heat down until my fingers numbed, all for her dream of Cal Arts. Every deposit was a prayer, every withdrawal from my own needs a vow. She's worth it. I'd kept it secret, imagining the day I'd hand her the folder, her eyes wide with gratitude, her arms around me. But tonight, that dream felt as cheap as she'd called my painting. I stood, legs unsteady, and walked to the hallway. The drawer creaked as I opened it, revealing the folder labeled College Fund, Madison. It was thick, stuffed with bank statements, receipts, every small act of love documented in ink. I carried it to my old desktop computer, the one I rarely used, and powered it on. The screen's glow felt harsh, clinical, as I logged into the banking portal. My password, Madison18, stung as I typed it. The balance appeared, $32,456.12. I knew what every dollar cost me. The winter I went without a new coat, the summer I didn't replace the broken fan, the birthdays I spent alone so she could have more. I stared at the number, my finger hovering over the mouse. Then I clicked transfer. Not to her. To me. To my personal checking account. The progress bar crawled, each second a chance to change my mind. But I didn't. The screen flashed, transfer complete. New balance, $0. I closed the folder, shut the drawer, turned off the computer. No one needed to know, not yet. This wasn't spite, not revenge. It was a quiet rebellion, a choice made in the wreckage of humiliation. For the first time in my life, I chose me, not my daughter, not my granddaughter, not the version of myself who gave until she broke. Just me. I made tea then, the right way, with honey and a proper teapot. The steam curled upward, warm against my face, and I sipped slowly, letting the silence wrap around me like an old friend. No laughter, no music, no voices telling me to smile more. Just the wind outside and the faint creak of the house settling. I didn't feel powerful or angry. I felt done. Done apologizing for my love, done believing it wasn't enough. The painting was still in the car, but I didn't bring it in. Not yet. It deserved better than this night. Morning came, gray and heavy, the sky bruised with clouds. I shuffled into the kitchen, slippers scuffing the linoleum, and stared at the computer like it might bite. The transfer was real. The money was mine now, sitting in my account like a stranger I wasn't sure how to greet. I thought I'd feel guilt, but there was none, just a strange stillness, like the world had paused to let me breathe. I made coffee, the percolator gurgling softly, and sat on the porch, watching the maple tree sway. Montpelier was waking up, a neighbor's dog barked, a delivery truck rumbled past, the air sharp with the promise of rain. Life went on, even when your heart felt like it had stopped. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Madison, "Hi Nana, can I stop by today? Miss you." I stared at the screen, her words glowing like a lure. She hadn't called me Nana in months, maybe a year. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't reply. Not yet. 2 hours later, she was on my porch, holding a tray of cookies from that fancy bakery downtown, the kind I'd admired in the window but never bought. Her hair was pulled back, her makeup softer than usual, her smile too bright, like a light bulb about to burn out. "Nana," she said, wrapping her arms around me before I could react. I stiffened, my body remembering the party, her laughter slicing through me. But I let her hug me. She smelled of expensive shampoo and sugar, nothing like the little girl who'd smelled of grass and crayons. "I was just thinking about you," she said, breezing into the kitchen like she hadn't been a stranger for years. I wanted to apologize for the party. I was overwhelmed. I didn't mean what I said. She sat at the table, hands folded, nails perfect, her phone glowing in her lap. "I shouldn't have said that about the painting. It was really sweet of you. It's actually beautiful." Her eyes shimmered, almost like tears. I nodded, searching her face for truth. Was it real? I wanted it to be. "I miss you," she added. "I know I haven't been around. Things got busy. But I'm here now." She took my hand, her fingers cool against mine. "I've been thinking about college. About Cal Arts. I know the fund is complicated now, but I just want to be close to you again. I'm not here for the money, Nana. I swear. I miss us." Her words were soft, familiar, dangerous. I felt my heart soften, the ache of missing her pulling me under. "I'll think about things," I said gently. "I'm glad you're here." She smiled, the big one, the one from when she was 7, drawing rainbows with "I love you, Nana" in shaky crayon. We ate cookies, she stayed for dinner, helped wash dishes, asked about my latest painting. She brought up the swing, Max, the daffodils. My heart wanted to believe her. Maybe she was growing. Maybe the party had taught her something. Maybe I'd been too quick to judge. That night, I opened the college fund folder again. I didn't transfer anything, but I thought about it. I thought about her smile, her tears, her "I miss us." I thought about it more than I wanted to admit. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe she'd learned. Or maybe I wanted her love so badly, I was willing to be wrong. The days after Madison's visit blurred into a haze of doubt and longing. Montpelier's autumn was settling in, the maple trees blazing red and gold, their leaves drifting across my lawn like scattered embers. The air carried a crisp bite, smelling of wood smoke and damp earth, and the mornings were quiet save for the distant hum of school buses. I'd sit on my porch, coffee cooling in my hands, replaying her words, "I'm not here for the money, Nana. I miss us." They felt like a lifeline, a chance to stitch back the pieces of who we'd been. But her laugh from the party, must have been cheaper than a real gift, kept creeping in, sharp as a splinter. I wanted to believe her, to trust the girl who'd eaten cookies at my table and spoken of daffodils. Yet something in me, older and wearier, whispered to be careful. I kept the college fund folder in its drawer, untouched but heavy in my mind. The money I'd transferred to my account sat there, unspent, like a secret I wasn't ready to tell. I'd catch myself staring at the computer, tempted to log in, to move it back, to give her another chance. But I didn't. Instead, I'd walk to my painting corner, where the easel stood bare, and pick up a brush, only to set it down again. The joy of painting had dimmed, replaced by a question I couldn't shake: what's the point if the ones you love don't see it? The canvas Madison had mocked stayed in my car, still wrapped, like a wound I wasn't ready to uncover. It was a Tuesday, gray and unremarkable, when everything shattered. Madison had come over that morning, her laptop tucked under her arm, a smile as bright as the bakery cookies she'd brought last time. "Nana, can you help me print a scholarship form?" she asked, setting up at the kitchen table. Her voice was light, familiar, like the girl who'd once begged me to fix her broken crayons. I nodded, happy to be needed, and we worked together, the printer humming as we chatted about her plans for Cal Arts. She left after lunch, rushed but cheerful, promising to call soon. "Love you, Nana," she said, waving from the porch. I stood there, heart warm, thinking maybe this was it, maybe we were healing. I was washing dishes, humming an old jazz tune we both loved, when I noticed her laptop still on the table, screen glowing softly. She'd forgotten it in her hurry. I meant to close it, to text her to come back, but a chat window caught my eye, open and blinking. The name at the top read Emmy. My stomach twisted, a primal instinct urging me to look away, but my eyes disobeyed. The last message hit me like a slap: "Don't worry, she's falling for it." I'd been sweet, cried a bit, told her I missed our bond. Classic emotional bait. She always melts with that family crap. My hand shook as I scrolled up. Another message: "Just need a couple more visits." She's already thinking about putting the fund back, I know it. Told you she's predictable. I'll be in Cal Arts by fall. Manifesting. The words burned into me, each one a blade. This wasn't a mistake, not a careless jab like at the party. This was a plan, calculated and cold. The hugs, the cookies, the tears, the "I miss us," all scripted, all fake. She'd played me, used my love like a pawn in a game I didn't know we were playing. I stood there, the laptop's glow harsh against the dim kitchen, my reflection faint in the screen. How had I not seen it? How had I let her fool me again? The memories of her visits replayed, now tainted, her bright smile, her soft Nana, her stories of Max and the swing. Every moment was a lie, a performance to pry open my wallet, my heart. I closed the laptop slowly, like sealing a coffin. The kitchen was silent, save for the drip of the faucet I hadn't fixed. I sank onto the sofa, the laptop still in my lap, its weight pressing into me. Grief came, not for the girl I'd lost, but for the one I'd invented, the Madison who loved me, who'd painted with me, who'd meant it when she called me her best friend. That girl was gone, maybe had been for years. What remained was a stranger, a predator who saw my love as a weakness to exploit. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat, letting the truth settle, cold and heavy, like snow on bare branches. Hours passed, or maybe minutes, I couldn't tell. The light shifted, the room growing darker as the clouds thickened outside. I walked to my painting corner, pulled the cloth off the canvas I'd hidden there, the one from the party. The swing, Max, the daffodils, they stared back at me, vivid and tender. I traced the brushstrokes, each one a piece of me, and heard her voice again: "Cheap." But it wasn't cheap. It was everything, my memories, my effort, my love. And she hadn't just rejected the painting. She'd rejected me. I whispered to the canvas, my voice steady for the first time in days: "You're not worthless. And neither am I." The words felt foreign, like they belonged to someone braver, but I said them again, louder, letting them fill the room. I covered the painting and turned away, my steps deliberate. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my rocking chair, a blanket around my shoulders, the porch light's yellow glow seeping through the curtains. Pain was quiet this time, not a storm but a companion, breathing beside me, waiting for me to decide what came next. I thought of all the times I'd melted, as she'd written. When Lauren called me overbearing, I'd apologized. When Madison stopped visiting, I'd blamed myself. When holidays passed without a call, I'd baked cookies and dropped them off anyway. I'd given pieces of myself to keep them close, to keep them from leaving. But now I saw it clearly, I'd been surviving, not loving. I'd sacrificed my own worth to be needed, and for what? So my granddaughter could mock me, manipulate me, treat me like a means to an end? Rage came then, not loud or wild, but sharp, like a blade honed by years of silence. It wasn't just about Madison. It was about me, about the woman I'd let myself become, the one who believed her love was only as good as what it could buy. I rocked in my chair, the creak of wood steady against the wind outside, and made a vow. No more melting. No more giving until I was empty. I wasn't done living, and I wasn't done being me. The painting, the fund, the years of quiet sacrifices, they weren't my shame. They were my strength, proof I'd loved with everything I had. And I wasn't going to let her take that from me. Morning broke over Montpelier, the sky a pale wash of gray, like watercolor left too long in the rain. I hadn't slept, my body stiff from hours in the rocking chair, the blanket still draped over my shoulders. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like it's holding its breath. I shuffled to the kitchen, the linoleum cold under my slippers, and made coffee, the percolators gurgle a small rebellion against the silence. Outside, the world stirred, leaves skittering across the driveway, a neighbor's car humming to life. But inside, I was still, my mind replaying Madison's messages, she always melts with that family crap. The words were wound, raw and deep, but they were also a mirror, showing me a woman I was done being. I stood by the painting corner, the canvas from the party still covered, its presence heavy as a heartbeat. I didn't uncover it, not yet. Instead, I walked to the hallway drawer and pulled out the college fund folder. Its weight felt different now, not a burden but a record of my love, my choices, my strength. I set it on the table, unopened, and let my fingers trace the label, College Fund, Madison. 12 years of sacrifices, skipped haircuts, patched coats, nights spent shivering to save on heat, lay inside, each dollar a testament to a dream I'd held for her. But she'd turned that dream into a game, and I wasn't playing anymore. I sat at my desk, the old computer humming as it powered on. The banking portal confirmed the transfer, $32,456.12 in my account, no longer hers. I didn't feel triumph, just a quiet resolve. This money wasn't for Cal Arts, not for her. It was mine, a piece of myself I was reclaiming. I closed the browser and opened a new tab, my fingers hesitating over the keyboard. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I typed women artists over 60 and hit enter. A world unfolded, online forums, galleries, stories of women who'd found their voices late, who'd turned pain into art. I clicked on a group called Silver Brushes, a community of older women sharing their work, their lives. My heart quickened. I wasn't alone. I pulled out an old camera, its battery barely alive, and took a photo of the painting. The swing, Max, the daffodils, they glowed under the morning light, each brushstroke a memory I'd poured out for her. I uploaded the image to the group, my hands trembling as I typed. This painting was called cheap by someone I love, but it was painted with everything I had left. Every stroke is a memory, every color a piece of my heart. Maybe it's not enough for some, but it was everything to me. I hit post and shut the computer, my pulse loud in my ears. It wasn't about attention. It was about speaking, finally, after years of swallowing my truth. I spent the day cleaning, not to distract myself but to reclaim my space. I swept the floors, polished the table where Madison had left her laptop, washed the teacup that had held my tears. The house smelled of lemon and pine, the windows open to let in the autumn air. Montpelier was alive outside, children laughing on their way to school, the distant clatter of a lawnmower. I stood on the porch, watching clouds drift, and felt something shift. Not peace, not yet, but a lightness, like shedding a coat I'd worn too long. By evening, I returned to the computer, expecting nothing. But the screen glowed with notifications, likes, comments, shares. My post had spread, a spark catching fire. This made me cry. There's so much love here. Whoever called this cheap doesn't know what art is. Do you sell prints? I want this in my home. My breath caught. People saw it, saw me. I scrolled, eyes blurring, and found a message from a woman named Dana. Hi Helen, I'm a curator for a small gallery in Brooklyn. Your piece stopped me cold. Would you consider exhibiting it? We'd be honored. I read it 3 times, my heart pounding. Brooklyn. A gallery. For my painting, the one she'd laughed at. I typed back, fingers unsteady, yes, I'd be honored too. I hit send and sat back, the room spinning. It wasn't just about the painting. It was about my story, my pain, my truth finding a home. I walked to the canvas, uncovered it, and stared. The colors seemed brighter, the memories sharper. I whispered, "You're not going into a closet." Not anymore. That night, I made tea, the honey sweet against my tongue, and sat in the rocking chair, the porch light casting soft shadows. For the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. I felt awake. The next morning, Dana called. Her voice was warm, steady, like she'd known me forever. I want to fly to Vermont to pick up the painting myself, she said. It deserves care. It's not just art, it's a story people need to hear. We talked for an hour, about the painting, about me. She asked for a title. I hesitated, then smiled. Call it The Rejected Gift. She paused. Perfect. After we hung up, I stood in the kitchen, the phone still in my hand. It wasn't revenge, not against Madison or Lauren. It was redemption, a reclaiming of the parts of me I'd given away too freely. I spent the day preparing the painting, wrapping it carefully, not in craft paper but in soft cloth, like swaddling something precious. The house felt different, lighter, as if it knew I was changing. Outside, the wind carried the scent of fallen leaves, and the sky was a deep, endless blue. I thought of Madison, her messages still burning in my mind, but the pain was quieter now, less a wound and more a scar. I didn't hate her. I didn't even pity her. I just saw her clearly, a girl who'd learned to take, who'd never known the cost of love like mine. When Dana arrived 2 days later, she was younger than I'd expected, with kind eyes and a smile that felt like a hug. She held the painting like it was glass, her fingers tracing the frame. This is powerful, Helen, she said. It's going to touch people. I nodded, my throat tight. As she left, I stood on the porch, watching her car disappear down the street. The air was cool, the world vast, and I was no longer small. I was Helen Carter, and I was just beginning. The Brooklyn Gallery was a world away from Montpelier's quiet streets, its white walls gleaming under soft lights, the air humming with murmurs and the clink of wine glasses. I stood in the center, my hands trembling, watching strangers pause before my painting, The Rejected Gift. The swing, Max, the daffodils glowed under the spotlight, each brushstroke a piece of my heart laid bare. People lingered, some whispering to each other, others standing silent, their eyes tracing the colors as if they could feel the weight of my story. I wore a simple black dress, my gray hair pulled back, feeling both exposed and invincible. Montpelier's pine-scented breezes and creaky porches felt distant. Here, in this sunlit space, I was no longer just Nana. I was Helen Carter, artist, and for the first time I believed it. Dana, the curator, had orchestrated everything with care. She'd flown to Vermont, handled the painting like a relic, and spent days planning the exhibition. The gallery was small but respected, its walls lined with works by women who'd turned their lives into art. My piece was the centerpiece, its placard simple, The Rejected Gift by Helen Carter. I'd stared at that sign for minutes, my name in bold, a quiet declaration of who I'd become. The opening night drew over 300 people, Dana whispered, more than they'd seen all season. I didn't know how to process it, strangers seeing me, not the grandmother who baked cookies or skipped doctor visits, but the woman who'd painted her pain into something undeniable. A woman in a red scarf approached me, her eyes soft. This painting, she said, it's like you reached into my chest and pulled out my own memories. Who hurt you to make this? Her voice wasn't prying, just honest. I smiled, throat tight. Someone I loved, I said. But it's not about them anymore. It's about me. She nodded, like she understood, and squeezed my hand before moving on. Others came, artists, collectors, women who saw their own stories in mine. Their words wrapped around me, not like pity but like recognition. I wasn't invisible here. I was seen. Dana pulled me aside later, her face lit with excitement. We need to talk, she said, leading me to her office, a cozy space filled with sketches and books. On her desk was a printed email from a Manhattan collector offering $20,000 for the rejected gift. I stared at the number, my breath catching. It was more than I'd saved in years, more than I'd ever imagined my work could be worth. You don't have to sell, Dana said softly. But if you do, this could fund a studio, travel, supplies, whatever you want. You've got something rare, Helen. Voice. Heart. My lips trembled. For so long, I'd thought my heart was a burden, my voice too small. But here, they were power. I nodded. Tell him yes. We sealed the deal that day, my first artist's contract signed with a hand that barely stayed steady. Dana insisted on a photo, me in front of the painting, smiling like I meant it. And I did, the kind of smile that comes from knowing you're no longer hiding. As I stood there, the gallery buzzing around me, I thought of Madison, her laugh at the party, her calculated messages. The pain was still there, a dull ache, but it didn't own me anymore. This moment, this triumph, was mine. Back in Vermont, the world felt different. My house, with its creaky floors and chipped teacups, seemed lighter, like it was breathing with me. I hadn't heard from Madison since her last visit, and Lauren had called only once, her voice clipped, fishing for details about the exhibition. I heard your painting's getting attention, she said, no apology, no warmth. I gave her nothing, just polite words, and hung up. Their silence didn't sting like it used to. I was building something new, something they couldn't touch. Then Madison showed up, unannounced, her knock sharp against the quiet of a late afternoon. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity, or maybe habit, pulled me to the door. She stood on the porch, her eyes glossy, her expression tired. Can we talk? She asked. I stepped aside, letting her in. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one where she'd once drawn rainbows, where she'd left her laptop open to her betrayal. She folded her hands, nails chipped now, her phone nowhere in sight. I saw the painting, she said, voice low. Online. People are talking about you. About it. I said nothing, my face still. She hesitated, then pushed on. I wanted to say sorry again. For the party. For everything. Her eyes flickered, searching mine. I messed up, Nana. I was stupid, selfish. I took you for granted. I want to fix things. I leaned back, arms folded. What do you mean, fix things? She swallowed, her hands fidgeting. I still want to go to Cal Arts. And maybe, if things are different now, maybe you could, she trailed off, but I heard it, the same hope, the same expectation. I stood, her eyes following me, confused. My voice was calm, steady. You called my love cheap. You pretended to care because you thought I'd fund your dream again. You treated me like a transaction. She opened her mouth, but I raised a hand. You lost something that day, Madison. Not just money. You lost the one person who believed in you no matter what. I walked to the door, opened it. You want something from me again? Earn it. She stood slowly, lips tight, pride wounded. No hug, no tears. She left, her footsteps fading down the porch. I closed the door, alone but whole, the silence no longer heavy but clean. I walked to my painting corner, pulled out a blank canvas, and picked up a brush. The bristles felt alive in my hand, the paint vibrant as I mixed colors, blues deep as the Vermont sky, golds warm as the daffodils. I didn't paint Madison or the swing. I painted a woman standing at the edge of a cliff, arms wide, wind in her hair, fearless. I titled it Freedom. It wasn't just a painting. It was a promise, to myself, to the world, that I was done melting. I hung it in the hallway, where the college fund folder used to be, and stood back. The house smelled of paint and possibility, and for the first time I felt like I belonged in it. The silence after Madison's departure lingered, not as a void but as a canvas, blank and waiting. Montpelier's autumn deepened, the air sharp with frost, the fields beyond my porch dusted with early snow. The maples stood bare, their branches clawing at a sky that seemed too vast, too open. I'd sit with my coffee, watching the creek glint under the morning light, its ripples carrying leaves downstream. The world felt different now, not because it had changed but because I had. The money from the painting's sale, $20,000, a sum that still felt unreal, sat in my account, a quiet promise of possibility. I didn't touch it, not yet. It wasn't about spending, it was about knowing I could choose. A week after Madison left, Lauren showed up, her heels clicking like accusations against my porch. She didn't knock, just pushed through the door like it was 1998 and I was still the mother she could steamroll. Her blazer was crisp, her hair perfect, but her eyes were sharp, glinting with something between anger and guilt. "I just came from Madison's," she said, "no hello, no softness. She's crying. Says you humiliated her, made her feel like trash. That you're throwing her away over a painting." I sipped my coffee, letting her words hang. She paced, hands flung up. "She told me about the money, the college fund. You took it back without warning. Do you have any idea what you're doing? You're punishing her for being young, for one stupid joke at a party." I stood slowly, my movements deliberate, and walked to the counter. I picked up the college fund folder, its edges worn from years of hope, and held it up. "This," I said, voice calm, "is 12 years of my life. Every coupon clipped, every doctor visit skipped, every winter I kept the heat low to save $50. This is my sacrifices," and she spat on it. Lauren's eyes flickered, but she didn't speak. "She wasn't upset," I continued. "She was cruel. Then she came back, played nice to get it back. She didn't apologize. She performed. And I almost fell for it." Lauren crossed her arms, her face flushed. "So what now? You let her dreams fall apart?" I met her gaze, unflinching. "She's 18, not 5. If her dreams are real, she'll fight for them, work for them, not manipulate a woman who loves her." I paused, my voice softening but firm. "I raised you better. And I raised her better. But somewhere, you both learned to take and forgot to give." Lauren looked away, her jaw tight, guilt or shame, I couldn't tell which, coloring her silence. I walked to the desk, pulled out a new folder, and set it down. Its label read Fondo de Libertad, Helen Carter in fresh black marker. "I'm using the money now," I said. "Not on anyone else. On me." Lauren stared at it, her mouth parting slightly, no words coming. "I gave you both decades," I added. "Now I'm taking a few years back." She whispered, almost to herself, "You really won't pay for Cal Arts?" I shook my head. "No. I already paid in full with everything I had." "And you threw it away." She left without another word, her heels fading down the porch, the door clicking shut behind her. I poured another coffee, my hand steady, and sat at the kitchen table. The house didn't feel empty, it felt mine. The folder, Fondo de Libertad, wasn't just a name. It was a vow, a reclamation of the years I'd given too freely. I didn't need their approval, their gratitude. I needed me. Days later, an email arrived from an editor at the New York Chronicle. She'd seen the rejected gift in Brooklyn, read about my story, and wanted to feature me in a piece called Late Bloomers, Women Who Found Their Voice After 60. I laughed, the sound startling in the quiet kitchen. Late bloomer? Maybe. Or maybe I'd always had a voice, just drowned out by the noise of others' needs. The interview was over the phone, the editor's voice warm, curious. "Tell me about the painting," she said. I told her everything, not Madison's name, not the gritty details, but the truth. "It was dismissed," I said, "not because it lacked value, but because the person it was for didn't recognize love when it was in front of them." She paused. "That's going to resonate with a lot of people." The article went live 2 days later, and my world tilted. Messages flooded in, from mothers, grandmothers, daughters, women who saw their own silenced hearts in my story. "I've been called too soft, too giving. Your painting gave me courage. I'm starting to paint again because of you." I was invited to a virtual conference for women over 50, then contacted by a publishing house about a memoir. My inbox became a tapestry of shared pain and hope, each message a thread connecting me to strangers who felt like kin. Then came the call that stopped my breath. An art collective in Paris wanted to feature the rejected gift in a traveling exhibit across Europe. "Your story is what the world needs right now," the woman said, her French accent soft, reverent. "They'd fly me out, cover everything." I hung up, my hands shaking, and sat in my rocking chair, the porch light casting its familiar glow. Paris. A place I'd only seen in books, a dream too big for the woman I'd been. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I walked to my studio, pulled out a blank canvas, and painted. Not Madison, not the swing, but a woman at a cliff's edge, arms outstretched, wind in her hair, fearless. I called it freedom, like the one in my hallway, but this was bolder, fiercer. I painted late into the night, the house alive with the scent of turpentine and possibility. Montpellier slept outside, its quiet streets cradling me, but I was awake, my brush moving with a purpose I'd never known. I wasn't painting for anyone else. I was painting for me. Paris was a dream stitched from light and shadow, its streets alive with the hum of voices, the clatter of café cups, the soft glow of lanterns against the Seine. I stepped off the plane into a world that felt too vast, too vibrant for the woman I'd been in Montpellier's quiet corners. The air smelled of fresh bread and river water, the city pulsing with a rhythm I didn't yet know. I was 62, a widow, a grandmother, an artist, words that once defined me now felt like fragments of a larger whole. I carried the rejected gift in my heart, its story etched into every step I took on cobblestone streets, its weight no longer a burden but a beacon. The art collective's gallery sat on a narrow street near the Marais, its facade unassuming but warm, with ivy curling around the windows. Inside, the space was alive, walls lined with works by women from across the globe, each piece a voice, a story. My painting hung near the center, framed simply, its colors vivid under soft lighting. The swing, Max, the daffodils, they weren't just memories now, they were a declaration, a testament to love given freely and reclaimed fiercely. I stood before it, my hands steady, my black shawl draped over a dress I'd bought for the occasion, simple but elegant. I didn't feel like an outsider. I felt like I belonged. The opening night was a blur of faces and languages, the room filled with artists, collectors, locals who'd wandered in from the rain-damp streets. People paused before my painting, some silent, others whispering in French or English, their eyes lingering on the daffodils, the watercolor sky. A young woman, her hair streaked with blue, touched my arm. "This feels like home," she said, her accent thick. "Like someone loved me enough to paint my childhood." I smiled, my throat tight. "Thank you," I said, and meant it. Each comment, each nod, was a thread weaving me into a world I'd never dared imagine. The collective's director, Claire, a woman with sharp eyes and a gentle voice, pulled me aside. "Your work is resonating," she said. "We've had offers already, galleries in London, Sydney, even a museum in Barcelona. They want to include the rejected gift in their collections." I blinked, the words surreal. "And you," she added, "they want you to speak, to share your story. It's not just the painting, Helen. It's you." I nodded, my heart pounding. For so long, I'd been the woman in the background, the one who gave without asking. Now, my voice mattered. I walked along the Seine that night, the city's lights shimmering on the water like scattered stars. I sat at a small cafe, a glass of wine and a slice of baguette before me, the world vast yet intimate. I was alone, but not lonely. I thought of Madison, her calculated tears, her "I'm not here for the money, Nana." The pain was there, a quiet scar, but it no longer defined me. I thought of Lauren, her sharp words, her refusal to see my worth. They were part of my story, but not its end. I was writing a new chapter, one where I was enough. The exhibit traveled, Berlin, Madrid, Florence, and I went with it, my suitcase light, my heart lighter. Each city was a revelation, its colors and sounds sinking into my bones. I painted in hotel rooms, on trains, sketching women who stood tall, unafraid, their eyes fierce with purpose. I called them Unbound, a series born from the freedom I'd found. Galleries noticed, collectors called, and my inbox filled with invitations to speak, to show, to be. I wasn't chasing fame, I was claiming space, a place to exist as Helen, not Nana, not mother, not grandmother, just me. Back in Vermont, my house felt like a sanctuary, its creaky floors and chipped teacups welcoming me home. Montpelier's winter was settling in, the air sharp with pine and snow, the fields blanketed white. I painted every day, my studio alive with color, blues deep as the Seine, golds bright as Paris lanterns. I didn't paint Madison or the swing anymore. I painted women who rose from ashes, who stood at cliffs and laughed into the wind. Each canvas was a prayer, not for forgiveness or redemption, but for the strength to keep going. One evening, a letter arrived, its envelope small, the handwriting familiar. Madison's name stared back at me from the return address. My chest tightened as I tore it open, the paper trembling in my hands. The words were brief, "Nana, I can't undo the hurt I caused. I'm working on myself. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm sorry. I regret how I treated you. I hope one day you'll see me differently. Love, Madison." I read it twice, the words sinking in like stones. I wasn't angry, not anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was done. I'd let go of the need for her love, her approval. I folded the letter and placed it in the drawer with the college fund folder, now just a relic of a life I'd outgrown. I walked to my studio, pulled out a canvas, and painted. Not a woman this time, but a horizon, endless, open, streaked with dawn's first light. I titled it Enough. It wasn't about Madison or Lauren or the years I'd given away. It was about me, standing in my truth, whole and unafraid. The house smelled of paint and possibility, the wind outside a soft hymn. I was no longer the woman who melted, who gave until she broke. I was Helen Carter, and I was free. Winter wrapped Montpelier in a quiet embrace, the snow falling soft and steady, blanketing the fields and muffling the world. My house stood warm against the cold, its windows glowing gold in the early dusk, the scent of pine and turpentine lingering from my studio. I'd returned from Europe weeks ago, but Paris lingered in me, the Seine's shimmer, the gallery's hum, the feeling of being seen. My paintings, Unbound and Enough, hung in the hallway, their bold colors a daily reminder of who I'd become. The $20,000 from the rejected gift sat untouched, not because I didn't know what to do with it, but because I was savoring the choice. For the first time, my future was mine to shape. The world hadn't stopped reaching for me. Emails poured in, galleries in London and Sydney, a women's art conference in Chicago, a publishing house nudging about a memoir. Each message was a spark, igniting a fire I hadn't known I carried. I answered slowly, deliberately, choosing only what felt true. I wasn't chasing fame or validation, I was building a life where my voice mattered. Strangers' words filled my inbox, women who'd read the New York Chronicle piece or seen the rejected gift online. "Your story gave me courage to leave a marriage that dimmed me. I'm painting again because of you." Their stories wove into mine, a tapestry of resilience that kept me steady. One morning, as snow dusted the porch, I sat with coffee, the steam curling upward, and opened a new email. A small art market in Spain invited me to exhibit Unbound in their spring festival. "Your work speaks to women who've reclaimed themselves," the organizer wrote. "We'd be honored to have you." I smiled, the idea of Spain, its sunlit streets, its vibrant colors, stirring something alive in me. I typed back, "Yes, I'll come," and felt the world expand, not with pressure but with possibility. Madison's letter lay in the drawer, its words no longer sharp but distant, like an echo from a life I'd left behind. I hadn't heard from her since, nor from Lauren, and the silence was clean, unburdened. I didn't hate them. I didn't wish them ill. I'd simply stopped waiting for their love to define me. My days were full, painting, reading, answering messages from women who felt like sisters. I'd joined a local art group, older women like me, their laughter and stories filling my kitchen on Thursday evenings. They'd seen my work, heard my story, and their eyes held no pity, only pride. "You're a force," Helen once said, her hands stained with clay. I believed her. One afternoon, I wandered into my studio, the light soft through the frost-etched windows. I pulled out a canvas and began to paint, not a woman or a horizon, but a tree, its roots deep, its branches reaching wide, leaves catching the sun. It was me, I realized, grounded yet free, weathered but thriving. I worked late, the house quiet save for the brush's whisper against canvas. The scent of snow and paint mingled, and I felt a peace I hadn't known was possible. Then came the call that shifted everything. A woman from an Australian art collective, her voice bright across the miles, wanted to include the rejected gift in an exhibit on female empowerment. "Your story is universal," she said. "It's about rising from dismissal, about claiming your worth." She invited me to Sydney, to speak alongside other artists, to share what I'd learned. I said yes without hesitation, my heart racing. Sydney. Another horizon, another chance to be Helen. I flew out in March, the Australian autumn crisp and golden. The gallery was vast, its walls alive with color, my painting hung beside works by women who'd survived wars, losses, silences. I spoke to a crowd of hundreds, my voice steady, my words raw. "I painted for love," I said, and was called cheap. But love isn't cheap. It's priceless. And so are we. The applause was warm, but it was the faces, women nodding, tears in their eyes, that stayed with me. Afterward, a woman in her 70s gripped my hand. "I gave everything to my kids," she said. "You reminded me I'm still here." I hugged her, my own eyes wet. In Sydney, I met Thomas, an artist older than me, his hands rough from years of sculpting, his eyes kind. We talked over coffee, then dinner, then walks along the harbor, sharing stories of art, loss, and the lives we'd rebuilt. He wasn't looking to save me, nor I him. We were two people, whole on our own, finding something gentle and real. "You're fearless," he said one evening, the water reflecting the city's lights. I laughed. "Not fearless. Just done being afraid." We parted as friends, promising to write, and I carried his warmth back to Vermont. Home again, I stood on my porch, the spring air soft, the creek murmuring. I painted more, women with fire in their eyes, skies that stretched endless. I titled them Alive. They weren't for galleries or collectors, they were for me, for the women who'd write to me, for the world that needed to see us. I was no longer the woman who melted, who gave until she was empty. I was Helen Carter, rooted like the tree I'd painted, reaching like its branches, and I was enough. Spring unfurled over Montpelier, the fields waking in bursts of green, the daffodils blooming fierce and yellow along my driveway. The air was soft, scented with earth and promise, and my house stood open to it, windows flung wide to let the breeze carry out the last of winter's weight. I'd been back from Sydney for weeks, but its golden light lingered in me, as did Thomas's quiet smile, the applause in the gallery, the women who'd gripped my hands and called me kin. My studio hummed with new work, canvases of women who burned bright, skies that held no limits. I painted not for approval but for truth, each stroke a step deeper into the life I was building. The world kept calling. Invitations arrived daily, galleries in Chicago, a lecture series in London, a residency in Florence. The New York Chronicle piece had spread, my story rippling across borders, touching women who'd felt invisible, dismissed, used. Their letters filled my inbox, each one a mirror. I gave my life to my family, and they forgot me. Your art showed me I'm still here. I answered every one, not with advice but with recognition, a nod to the strength we shared. The publishing house pressed for a memoir, and I'd started writing, late at night, my words raw and unpolished but honest. I wasn't sure if I'd publish it. For now, it was enough to tell my story to myself. One morning, as I sipped coffee on the porch, the creek glinting under the sun, I opened an email from the Spanish art market. They wanted Unbound for their festival, but more, they asked me to teach a workshop for women over 50, to share how I'd turned pain into art. I said yes, the idea of Spain's vibrant streets pulling me forward. I'd go in June, when Montpellier's summers bloomed, and I'd paint there, under a new sky, with women who'd lived lives like mine. The $20,000 from the rejected gift would fund it, travel, supplies, a small studio I was eyeing in town. It wasn't about money, it was about freedom, about choosing me. Madison and Lauren remained shadows, their silence a choice I no longer questioned. Madison's letter, tucked in the drawer with the old college fund folder, was a relic, its words, "I'm sorry, I hope you'll see me differently," fading like ink left too long in the sun. I didn't wish them harm. I didn't wish them anything. I'd let go of the need to be their savior, their ATM, their invisible anchor. My local art group filled my Thursdays, their laughter and paint-stained hands a new kind of family. "You're glowing, Helen," one said, her eyes crinkling. "Like you found your light." I smiled. I had. One afternoon, I wandered into my studio, the light golden through the windows, and pulled out a canvas. I painted a woman, older, her hair silver, standing in a field of wildflowers, her arms raised to a sky streaked with dawn. Her eyes held no fear, only peace. I called it whole. It was me, not the grandmother who'd melted, not the mother who'd begged for love, but the woman who'd learned her worth. I hung it beside enough, the hallway a gallery of my becoming. The house smelled of linseed oil and spring, and I felt rooted, like the pines outside, steady against any storm. Then came a moment I hadn't expected. A package arrived, small and unassuming, the return address unfamiliar. Inside was a sketchbook, its pages worn, and a note in handwriting I didn't recognize. "Dear Helen, I saw your story in the Chronicle. I'm 68, a widow, an artist who stopped drawing when my kids grew up. Your painting woke me. This is for you, my first sketches in years. Thank you for reminding me I'm still here. Ruth." I opened the book, its pages filled with delicate lines, flowers, faces, quiet moments caught in pencil. My eyes blurred. Ruth didn't know me, but she saw me, and I saw her. I wrote back, "Your sketches are beautiful. Keep drawing. You're not alone." That night, I sat in my rocking chair, the porch light casting soft shadows, and thought of Ruth, of the women who'd written, of the ones I'd meet in Spain. I wasn't just an artist, I was a spark, igniting others to claim their own light. I painted late, a new canvas, a circle of women, hands linked, standing under a vast sky. I called it Sisters. It was for Ruth, for the women in my inbox, for me. The world didn't always reward the kind, the giving, but it hadn't broken us. We were here, painting, writing, living. As June approached, I prepared for Spain, packing light but carrying a heart full of color. I'd teach, paint, listen, and learn, surrounded by women who'd survived their own betrayals. Montpellier's fields stretched green beyond my porch, the creek singing, the daffodils bowing in the breeze. I stood there, coffee in hand, and felt the weight of my past, not a chain, but a root, grounding me as I reached for the sky. I was Helen Carter, and I was whole, not because the world finally saw me, but because I finally saw myself. June in Spain was a tapestry of heat and color, the air thick with the scent of orange blossoms and sun-warmed stone. The art market in Valencia buzzed with life, stalls overflowing with paintings, sculptures, and textiles, voices mingling in Spanish, English, and languages I couldn't name. I stood in a small courtyard, my Unbound series displayed on easels, their bold women catching the light. Around me, women over 50 gathered for my workshop, their faces lined with stories, their hands eager for brushes. I wasn't just an artist here, I was a guide, a mirror, reflecting back the strength they'd forgotten. Montpellier's quiet fields felt a world away, but their roots held me steady, grounding me as I stepped into this new life. The workshop was simple, a circle of chairs, canvases, and paint, the sun filtering through olive trees. I spoke softly, my voice steady. We've all been dismissed, told our love, our work, our hearts weren't enough. But they are. Paint that truth. They listened, some nodding, others wiping tears, and then they painted, fierce reds, deep blues, golds that burned. A woman named Carmen, her hair silver, painted a bird breaking free of a cage. "This is me," she said, her voice trembling. "I left my husband last year. I thought I was too old to start over." I squeezed her hand. "You're not starting over. You're starting." She smiled, and I saw myself in her, the woman who'd once thought her light had gone out. Valencia's streets became my canvas. I sketched in plazas, capturing women laughing, children chasing pigeons, old men playing chess. I painted at night, my hotel room alive with color, creating sisters, women linked under endless skies, their strength a quiet fire. The market's organizers bought one for their permanent collection, and I signed it with a hand that no longer shook. I wasn't chasing approval, I was sharing a truth I'd earned. The $20,000 from the rejected gift funded this: travel, supplies, the freedom to say yes to Spain, to myself. Back in Montpellier, summer bloomed, the creek sparkling, the daffodils gone but their promise lingering. My house was a sanctuary, its walls lined with whole, enough, alive. The emails kept coming, galleries, conferences, women who'd seen my work in Valencia or read my story online. I answered, but I also carved out quiet painting for me, writing the memoir that was becoming less about pain and more about power. Ruth, the widow who'd sent the sketchbook, wrote again, her drawings bolder now, her words alive. "You showed me I'm not done," she said. I wrote back, "None of us are." One evening, as I stood on my porch, the sky streaked with pink, a new email arrived. Thomas, the artist from Sydney, had sent a photo of a sculpture, a woman rising from stone, her arms wide. "For you," he wrote. "I'm coming to the States next month. Can I visit?" I smiled, typing back, "Yes." He wasn't a savior, nor I his. We were two souls, whole and free, finding joy in shared moments. We'd talk, laugh, maybe paint, and that was enough. Madison and Lauren remained distant, their silence a choice I no longer carried. The college fund folder, Madison's letter, sat in the drawer, relics of a life I'd outgrown. I didn't need their apologies or their love to be whole. I'd given them decades, and now I was giving myself the years I had left. My local art group filled my kitchen with laughter, their hands stained with paint, their stories weaving into mine. "You're a beacon, Helen," one said. I believed her, not because I was special, but because I was true. I painted that night, a woman standing in a field, her silver hair catching the wind, her eyes fierce with peace. I called it priceless. It was me, not the grandmother who'd melted, not the mother who'd begged, but the woman who'd learned her worth through loss, betrayal, and the quiet courage to rise. I hung it in the living room, where the porch light's glow touched it each evening, a reminder that I was home, not just in Montpellier, but in myself. The world didn't always reward the kind, the giving, but it hadn't broken me. I'd been betrayed, dismissed, called cheap, but I'd turned that pain into art, into a voice that reached across oceans. I stood on my porch, coffee in hand, the creek singing, the fields stretching wide. I was Helen Carter, artist, woman, whole. And that was priceless.